Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Labor Standards and Social Legislation. So we are now in Title 2 of Book 3, which talks about wages. So first, let us learn the basic terms that are used here in this title, which are provided for under Article 97. So let's start with person. So who is a person? A person means an individual, partnership, association, corporation, business trust, legal representatives, or any organized group of persons. So when you say person, it doesn't only refer to a natural person like me or like you. It also refers to juridical entities like partnership, association, corporation, etc. Now, employer includes any person acting directly or indirectly in the interest of an employer in relation to an employee and shall include the government and all its branches, subdivisions, and instrumentalities, all government owned or controlled corporations and institutions, as well as non-profit private institutions or organizations. Employee includes any individual employed by an employer. Agriculture includes farming in all its branches, and among other things includes cultivation and tillage of soil, dairying, the production, cultivation, growing, and harvesting of any agricultural and horticultural commodities. So, you know already what is agriculture, right? Employ includes to suffer or permit to work. So, that is the word employ. Wage, this refers to the remuneration or earnings. However designated. So kahit na you receive your wage through on a daily basis or on a weekly basis or on a commission basis, it doesn't matter. For as long as it is a remuneration for the services rendered, then that is considered a wage. So let us distinguish between wage and salary. When you say wage, it is used to characterize the compensation paid for manual skilled or unskilled labor. While salary means it used to describe the compensation for higher or superior level of employment. Like if you're working in the office, then your the remuneration that you're receiving is called salary. But if you are a skilled worker, like a construction worker or a laborer, then the remuneration that you are receiving is called a wage. Now, in this topic, we will also meet this two words or two terms no in wages, which are the supplements and the facilities. So what are supplements? Supplements constitute extra remuneration or special privileges or benefits given to or received by the laborers over and above their ordinary earnings or wages. So for example, in your employment, aside from your daily salary, you are also given a clothing allowance, for example, or a rice allowance or um, overtime allowance, so communication allowance, or even a car or a house or and anything privileges or benefits that is over and above your ordinary salary or earnings. So that is what we call as supplements. But when you say facilities, these are items of expense necessary for the laborers and his family's existence and subsistence, but does not include tools of the trade or articles or services primarily for the benefit of the employer or necessary to the conduct of the employer's business. So these are items of expense, no? Like for example, meal. Let us say, for example, you were given a meal by the employer, but the meal, the amount of the meal will be deducted from your salary. Then uh, it is an item of expense. It is not over and above your ordinary earnings kasi dinideduct siya sa salary mo. So hindi siya over and above. Hindi siya benefits, kundi expense. So facilities ang tawag doon. So when you say supplement, extra remuneration siya. additional. When you say facility, it is an item of expense, no? And it is deductible from the wage, but the supplement is not deductible from the wage. So what are the requirements for deducting value of facilities? We have 3 requirements. Number 1 is that there must be a proof that such facilities are customarily furnished by the trade, meaning that is ordinarily furnished. Like yung may lunch kayo always, provide kayo ng company and deducted yan always sa salary. Second, the provision of deductible facilities must be voluntarily accepted in writing by the employee. So, pwedeng hindi mo i-accept yan and pwedeng mag-refuse ka to be furnished with meals, no? So, pwede din yon. Kailangan merong voluntary acceptance ng employee. Third is facilities must be charged at fair and reasonable value. So take note that this particular title 2 of Book 3 does not apply to farm tenancy or leasehold, for domestic service and persons working in their respective homes, in needlework, or in any cottage industry duly registered in accordance with law. Just remember the 3 employment that hindi applicable itong Title 3, Title 2 rather. Now, let's talk about minimum wage rates. So, sino ba ang nagsiset ng minimum wage rate natin? So, ang nagsiset niyan is yung Regional Tripartite Wages and Productivity Boards or tinatawag natin RTWPB. So, kaya kung mapansin nyo, iba-iba yung minimum wage per region. Kasi yung nagdi-determine ng minimum wage in every region is yung ating RTWPB dito sa Region 11. So, depende kasi yan sa may mga factors kasi sila na kino-consider before they set the minimum wage. So, when you say statutory minimum wage, it is the lowest wage rate fixed by law that an employer can pay to workers. So, the payment of minimum wage is a mandatory statutory obligation that is not dependent upon one's ability to pay. Thus, the lack of funds is not a valid defense on the part of the employer to excuse him from paying the minimum wage. Actually, this is one of the most violated provisions in the labor code, because the law says that an employee should be paid the statutory minimum wage. And that statutory minimum wage is set by the Regional Tripartite Wages and Productivity Boards. Ang sabi ng batas, hindi ka pwedeng magbayad below the minimum wage. So, kung mapapansin ninyo sa actual scenario talaga natin, may mga violations talaga. No? This is one of the most violated provisions under the law. And hindi naman ito nire-report or nire-reklamo, pero really, may mga companies talaga nagbabayad below the minimum wage, pero talagang violation yan kasi clear yung batas natin na kailangan, this is a mandatory statutory obligation, and the lack of funds or the inability to pay is not a valid ground para hindi mo bayaran ng minimum wage yung employee mo. Okay? But take note that there are exceptions to the coverage of the rule of minimum wage. So take note of the exceptions. Number 1 is household or domestic helpers, including family members and persons in the personal service of another. What is the reason for the exception? Kasi may separate law sila. Meron din silang sarili nila ng minimum wage. Okay? Second is home workers engaged in needlework. Third is workers employed in any establishment duly registered with the National Cottage Industries and Development Authority, provided that such workers perform the work in their respective homes. Fourth is workers in any duly registered cooperative when so recommended by the Bureau of Cooperative Development and upon approval of the Secretary of Labor and Employment. And fifth is yung mga BMBs, yung mga Barangay Microbusiness Enterprises, kasi maliliit lang sila, so they are exempted from the coverage of the minimum wage law. And yung mga employees nila pwedeng bayaran below the minimum wage. So kailangan magpa-list ka muna as a Barangay Microbusiness Enterprise. and other exemptions provided by the Regional Tripartite Wage and Productivity Board. So let's go to Article 100, Prohibition against Elimination or Diminution of Benefits, or tinatawag nating the non-diminution rule. So ano lang ibig sabihin nito? Okay? Kapag ikaw ay may sweldo na 500 pesos per day, hindi pwedeng magpalabas na or mag-issue ng policy yung company na i-reduce nila to 400 pesos per day. Kasi we have this rule na non-diminution of benefits. So kahit na bumaba yung workload mo, hindi pwedeng babaan yung salary mo kasi bawal tayo mag-diminution. So pwedeng ma-demote ka pero yung salary mo as is pa rin. Okay? The rule applies to employment benefits initiated after the issuance of the Labor Code. Instances when the rule applies: express policy, written contract or company policy. Requisites for the prohibition to apply: the grant of the benefit is founded on a policy or has ripened into a practice over a long period of time. Like, matagal nyo nang binibigay yung benefit na yan, so naging company practice na siya. Then second is, it is consistent and deliberate, no? Always, no? Always binibigay. And sure na talagang deliberate, no? Voluntary on the part of the employer. Third is that it is not due to error in the construction or application of a doubtful or difficult question of law. Hindi siya product of misinterpretation of the law. Fourth, the diminution or discontinuance is done unilaterally by the employer. So, like for example, the employer has been giving you let's say a 14th month pay aside from the 13th month pay. Tapos every year nila binibigay yan. Tapos wala namang alam naman nila na 13th month pay lang talagang nakalagay sa batas, pero binibigay nila pa rin. So in that case, naging company practice na siya kasi for a very long period of time it has been the practice, no? So kapag yan ang nangyari, yung right mo to that 14th month pay becomes a right which cannot be withdrawn later on kasi by the principle of non-diminution of benefits. Pero kung ang nangyari is nagkamali lang talaga yung company because they thought na you are entitled, but in truth and in fact, hindi ka pala entitled under the law kasi nag-iisip sila na they thought na applicable din yung mga issuances ng government for their employees, kaya in-apply din nila sa kanilang mga private employees. And later on, na-discover nila na mali pala yung interpretation nila. So in that case, they can, the non-diminution of benefit will not apply. No? Kasi merong error in the interpretation of the law. Pero kung wala namang error, klaro naman sa actions ng company na talagang binigay talaga nila yung 14th month pay to the employees, then it will ripen as a practice and therefore that is now a right, no, that can be demanded, no, to be by the employees, no, that can the employees can now raise that they are entitled to it kasi naging practice na siya. So the general rule is bonus is an amount granted and paid ex gratia to the employee. So ang general rule niyan is merong discretion sa employer na magbigay ng bonus sa'yo on top of your 13th month pay. Pero exception to the rule is if naging company practice na siya. So that's the time that the non-diminution of benefits will come into play, no, will apply. So 13th month pay, an additional income based on wage but is not part of the wage. It is equivalent to 1/12 of the total basic salary earned by an employee within a calendar year. So paano ba kinocompute yung 13th month pay? Ito total lahat ng sweldo mo from January to December. Kung magkano yung natanggap mo. Of course, na less doon yung mga absences mo, yung mga leave without pay. So, minus yun sila. Yun lang talagang actual na salary na na-receive mo, na-earn mo within a calendar year. So, pag na-total na yan lahat, i-divide yan by 12. So, that is the equivalent 13th month pay that you will receive at the end of the year. Provided, para maging entitled ka for 13th month pay, at least nag-work ka ng 1 month, no? At least nakaserve ka 1 month, no? Para ma-receive din mo na siya. So what if, for example, the employee resigned in between? Like, na-employee siya January, ni-resign siya June. Is he or she entitled to 13th month pay? The answer is yes, because the only requirement is at least nakaserve ka ng 1 month. So, at the end of the year, entitled ka pa rin ng 13th month pay in proportion to the salary earned by you within a calendar year. So, hanggang June lang din yung ma-earn mo. So, i-total yung salary mo from January to June divided by 12, then that will be your 13th month pay. Even piece rate employees are entitled to 13th month pay, okay? But exceptions from PD 851, meaning the 13th month pay, yung managerial employees. But company policy or established practice or the employment contract may cover them. So, hindi talaga required si employer magbigay ng 13th month pay sa mga managers. Pero, based on practice, binibigyan talaga nila yung managers nila. Those who have already been receiving 13th month pay or its equivalent. So kung before itong PD number 851 na pasa na batas, kung tumatanggap ka na ng 13th month pay, so hindi ka na entitled under this law. Third are government employees because they are governed by the civil service rules. Iba yung rule nila. Pero alam nyo, dalawa yung nila, yung bonus nila, 13th month and 14th month pay. Fourth is employees who are paid on purely commission, boundary, or task basis, and those who are paid a fixed amount for performing a specific work, irrespective of the time consumed in the performance thereof. Kasi yung essence ng 13th month pay is yung earn mo na salary, yung service mo. That is the essence of 13th month pay. So if you are paid on purely commission basis, or boundary or task basis, and those who are paid fixed amount for specific work, then the period there, the time spent doesn't matter kasi. Kaya hindi mag-apply yung 13th month pay sa kanila. So depende na lang sa employer kung bibigyan niya yung mga ganitong employees. And other workers covered by PD number 851, meaning to say kasali sila sa entitled for 13th month pay, yung mga kasambahay. Entitled sila yung extras, casual, and seasonal employees. So remember kung sino yung mga hindi kasali at sino yung mga kasali. Payment by results. Di natin yan. Payment of wages. Let's go to chapter 3. No employer shall pay the wages of an employee by means of promissory notes, vouchers, coupons, tokens, tickets, cheats, or any object other than legal tender. Ayan, nakakaano naman kung ang ibibigay sa'yo na sweldo is voucher. Paano mo gagamitin yung voucher, di ba? Yung wages kasi, yung purpose natin yan is for us to buy our basic needs, di ba? To support ourselves, for our education, etc. And parang nakakababa naman ng moral kung ang ibibigay sa'yo is token, tickets, coupon, etc. So sabi ng batas, dapat pera talaga, legal tender, that which you can use as a medium of exchange. So yun siya, no? Pero ang allow dito is, aside from cash, pwede ka cheque, no? Or money order. Provided that, again, it will not produce the effect of payment until it has been cashed, or through the fault of the creditor, it has been impaired. So remember that rule in the obligations and contracts. Time of payment, kailan ba dapat bayaran yung sweldo? Sabi ng Article 103, twice daw a month. Every 2 weeks or twice a month at intervals not exceeding 16 days. So that explains why yung mga sweldo is 1530. Kasi hindi dapat siya mag-exceed ng interval na 16 days. So the more is like 16 days, no, yung interval. Beyond that, there would now be a violation of the law. But meron tayong exception yan, kung merong force majeure or circumstances beyond the employer's control. Kaya hindi ka nila mabayaran within that period, no? That interval. Gaya na nangyari ngayon, di ba? Sa atin, public health emergency, like for example, naghihirap na ngayon yung mga companies. So, on account of force majeure or beyond their control na hindi na din bumabayad yung mga clients nila, and so they have difficulty paying for their employees. Kaya yung iba napipilitan na mag-retrench at magtanggal ng mga empleyado. So actually, those actions of the company are justified, no, by the circumstances, no, which are beyond the employer's control. And okay, yun siya. Place of payment, saan ba binabayaran yung wages? Made at or near the place of undertaking. So, pwede sa office, or kung meron kayong bank account, then doon sa mga bank account nyo na. Okay, basta yung nakalagay sa batas is made at or near the place of undertaking. Now, direct payment of wages. Wages shall be paid directly to the workers to whom they are due. So, eto siya, ang example ko nito, kunyari si husband yung employee, hindi pwedeng ibigay ni employer yung sweldo kay wife. Kasi yung employee is si husband. Yan ang ibig sabihin ng wages shall be paid directly to the workers to whom they are due. Exceptions are in cases of force majeure. Ayan, beyond the control, no? So pwedeng mag-authorize si worker ng person na mag-receive ng salary niya. Pero yun na nga, kailangan may force majeure or special circumstances, and dapat may authority given by the worker. Or where the worker has died, syempre, di ba? So, kung patay na siya, so hindi na directly mabayad sa kanya. Yung mga heirs na niya ang magre-receive ng kanyang salary. Contractor or subcontractor, Article 106. So what is this? So what is contracting or subcontracting? It means an arrangement whereby a principal agrees to put out or farm out with a contractor or subcontractor the performance or completion of a specific job, work, or service within a definite or predetermined period, regardless of whether such job, work, or service is to be performed or completed within or outside the premises of the principal. Okay? When you say contracting, yung mag-outsource ka ng job, like, for example, yung mga usual nito is security guards. Actually, yung mga security guards ng mga like malls or ng mga schools, outsource yan sila. Meron silang agency na pinagkukunan yan. So, yung agency is engaged in contracting, okay? In parang providing job or service to a client. So like for example, yung UM, meron silang mga security guards there, hindi naman yan sila directly employed by UM. So meron silang tawag na arrangement between doon sa agency and the UM for that security services. So that is an example of contracting or subcontracting. But take note here that why are we discussing this? Because yung mga usual na ginagawa sa mga companies na they make it appear that the employee is an employee of an agency, pero yun pala, just to evade no payment of statutory obligations, like to make them regular employees, like to give them benefits, kaya ginagawa nilang like kanang gumingon sila nga ahente man ko kanang sa tawag nila na ahensya sa agency daw sila, dili daw sila sa company. So mga ganyan. Actually, there is what we call legitimate contracting and illegitimate contracting. Para maging legitimate contracting ka, meron tayong 4 requirements. Number 1 is you should be registered with Department of Labor and Employment, that you are engaged in contracting out or in contracting services, no? Like yung mga security guards. Kasi yung agency nila, registered yan sa Department of Labor and Employment. Second, You are carrying on a distinct and independent business and undertakes to perform the job, work, or service on its own responsibility. Meaning to say, you provide you train your people, you conduct independent business. Yung mga company kung saan mo kung sino yung pinaglalagyan mo ng mga security guards, mga clients mo lang sila kasi nakikipag-business arrangement sa kanila. So meaning you are also conducting an independent business of your own. And you are free from control and direction of the principal or your client. So hindi ka pwedeng i-control ng UM. No, kasi ikaw yung may control sa mga security guards na nilagay mo dyan. Pati yung discipline ng mga security guards, ikaw yung merong power, hindi yung UM. The UM lang is yung responsibility na lang nila is to report the matter to the agency. And you have your substantial capital or investment. So, yung mga uniform ng mga security guard, yung mga batuta nila, yung mga suot nila, yung training nila, cost of training, is on the account of the agency. So, hindi yung UM yung gumagastos niyan. Kaya, yan yung mga isa sa indication na meron talagang legitimate contracting. Independent talaga yung security agency at saka yung UM. Engaged through a service agreement that ensures compliance with all the rights and benefits under labor law. So, merong service agreement. So, ano pala yung illegitimate contracting? Yung illegitimate contracting is, ang example niyan, yung labor-only contracting, tawag natin na in the guise of service agreement, like for example, mag-apply ka ng work sa mall, and then sabi sa'yo, ano ka lang daw, labor-only contracting ka lang. Hindi ka talaga empleyado ng mall. Nasa agency yung employment mo. Pero, wala namang separate training, wala namang provide na capital investment yung agency. Yung mga ganyan na mga scheme or system. Tapos, ikaw naman yung nagtitrain sa employee for your company. So that is labor-only contracting kasi wala silang substantial investment or substantial capital. Hindi naman nila tinetrain yung mga employees nila na binibigay nila sa mga companies. Yung mga ganyan na instance. So that is labor-only contracting. So kapag wala itong apat na requirements natin dito sa legitimate contracting, ibig sabihin yan, ang ini-engage is only a labor-only contracting, which is prohibited under the labor code. Ayan, there is labor-only contracting where the person supplying workers to an employer does not have substantial capital. Wala silang substantial capital, wala silang tools, equipment, machineries, and the workers recruited and placed by such person are performing activities which are directly related to the principal business of such employer. Gaya ng mga sales lady, di ba? Directly related naman yung work nila to the business of the mall, di ba? Kasi they are engaged in selling goods or merchandise, di ba? So, wala talagang unlike kasi sa security services, hindi naman talaga security yung principal business ng UM. Kaya you can say that the services performed by the security guards are not directly related to the principal business of UM. Kaya legitimate sila kasi nga they have their separate talaga na company. Hindi sila employees ng UM. But merong mga companies na ini-engage nila yung service ng person, ginagamit naman nila sa regular conduct nila ng business. At saka araw-araw nagjo-duty, yung related sa business, etc. So, yan yung mga modus or mga scheme na ginagawa ng mga companies para maiwasan nila yung mga rights and privileges of an employee under the labor code. So what are the effects of labor-only contracting? The person or intermediary shall be considered merely as an agent of the employer. So yung person na nag-provide ng worker sa principal or the company is merely an agent. And second, yung employer shall be responsible to the workers in the same manner and extent as if the latter were directly employed by him. So yung company na nag-hire ng mga employees through an agent will now become the employer, the direct employer of those workers. And lastly, the employer and the labor-only contractor will solidarily be treated as the direct employers. So ang mangyayari is that yung mga workers na hired through labor-only contracting will become employees of the company, and therefore the company will be liable for their salaries, for any benefits that are due to them, no, under the labor code. So ma-treat sila as employee talaga ng principal or ng company. Unlike in legitimate contracting, yung mga, like for example natin kanina, yung mga security guards are not the employees of UM. And therefore, UM is not directly liable for their salaries and wages. So ang magiging liable niyan is yung agency na nag-provide ng mga security guards kasi nga they are legitimately contracting, no, services. But unlike here in labor only contracting, ang ginasupply lang nila is tao lang, and then wala na sila tools, wala equipment, wala machineries, and therefore ang ginayon sa balaod is they are to be considered as employees of the company to which they are being hired. Take note that labor-only contracting is prohibited, no? Article 107, indirect employer. The provisions of the immediately preceding article shall likewise apply to any person, partnership, association, or corporation which, not being an employer, contracts with an independent contractor for the performance of any work, task, job, or project. Solidary liability, ito yung sinasabi natin na every employer or indirect employer shall be held responsible with his contractor or subcontractor for any violation of any provision of this code. So solidary yung liability, meaning both of them shall be held liable. So let's proceed to prohibition regarding wages. So there are principles here in wages, no, that you should remember. Number one is non-interference in disposal of wages. So simple lang ito. Sa employer, bawal siyang mag-interfere with the freedom of any employee to dispose of his wages. So kung gusto niyang parang i-spend yung kanyang salary for his house or his car, etc. So hindi pwede mag-interfere si employer. Dili siya pwede magbuot kung asa gastuhon ni employee ang iyahang sweldo. And we also have this principle of wage deduction. So generally, bawal talagang mag-deduct ng anything from the wages of the employee unless na lang, number one, if the employee secured an insurance. So merong premium dyan na pwedeng i-deduct sa sweldo ng employee. Second, if deduction for union dues kapag authorized by the employee in writing. And third is in cases where the employer is authorized by law like SSS, PhilHealth, Pag-ibig, and taxes. So yun yung mga required under the law na dapat i-deduct sa wage ng employee. Pero generally, outside sa tatlong na-mention natin, hindi pwedeng mag-deduct ng anything sa employer from the salary or wage of the employee. Like for example, mag-deduct si manager, gipautang niya sa employee, then karon gideduct ni manager yung installment sa iyang sweldo, so dili pwede. Kasi it is not one of the exceptions to the general rule. Take note of the deductions which are authorized by existing laws. Example, deduction for value of meals and other facilities, yung insurance, premium, union dues kapag with the consent, of course, of the employee. Withholding tax, deductions for obligations to third persons, like kung merong authorization ng employee, SSS, PhilHealth, Pag-ibig, ito yung mga common, and deductions for loss or damage under Article 114. Just familiarize yourselves lang with the deductions allowed under the law. Deposits for loss or damage. So no employer shall require his worker to make deposits from which deduction shall be made for the reimbursement of loss or damage to tools. So ibig sabihin lang nito na hindi ka pwedeng i-require ng employer na mag-deposit no na certain amount no in case makaguba ka og gamit sa office. Unless na lang it has been a recognized practice no by the employer and of course agreed upon by the employee. Limitations under Article 115. There are limitations now for deposits. Number one is that the employee is clearly shown to be responsible. No? Ma-prove talaga na siya yung responsible for the loss or damage. Second, the employee is given ample opportunity to show cause why deduction should not be made. And third, the amount of deduction is fair and reasonable and shall not exceed the actual loss or damage. And the deduction from the employee's wage does not exceed 20%. So, basin ng value sa iyahang naguba is 10,000, then ang sweldo niya 10,000. So, dili pwede na hutdonin mo ang 10,000 og deduct sa iyahang salary. So, dapat 20% lang. Next, Article 116, withholding of wages and kickbacks prohibited. Kanang mga under the table. Okay, so bawal na siya i-deduct sa sweldo sa employee. Like for example, kaning in consideration of your promotion, kailangan na ay share si manager sa imuhang sweldo, so that is prohibited under the law. Article 117, deduction to ensure employment. Ay, ito pala yung ibig sabihin natin kanina. Now, in order for you to be promoted, para ma-comply itong promise of employment, so makiksabot sa imuha sa employer na, sige, part of your salary will be, will go to the employer. So that is prohibited, no? Retaliatory measures, what is this? For example, nagkaso ka kay employer because of any violation under the labor code, and as a form of retaliation para makabalo sa employer sa imuha, dili kanya bayaran og sweldo or i-reduce niya mong sweldo. So that is prohibited. And Article 119, false reporting. It shall be unlawful for any person to make any statement, report, or record filed or kept pursuant to the provisions of this code, knowing such statement, report, or record to be false in any material respect. So I guess that ends our session for today, and we will proceed next meeting for Chapter 5, which studies wage agreements and wage determination. That's all. See you next video. Goodbye.